Hello, and welcome back to Dark Academia Queen. Today I went down a rabbit hole because I was like, what are some of the most haunted places in the U.S.? And I talked about Louisiana, I talked about New Orleans, and Savannah. So I want to go down like this rabbit hole of like some of the most haunted places in the U.S. So I found this list on Google and it gave me 13 of the most haunted places. So of course, me being me going down my rabbit hole, had to look this up. Um, but if you're new here, hit that like button, hit that bell for notifications, and please subscribe, help a girl out. Go check my merch shop out as well. It's called Breezyville Merch Shop. You can go check that out. I also have some sister podcasts, True Crime Lounge, just a breezy chat, and Sassy Southern Belle. So, shall we get started on the Myrtle Plantation? The Myrtles Plantation. Well, this is in St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's one of the most haunted places in the U.S. And this house was built in 1796 and is nestled underneath a canopy of live oaks. It is said to be home to one of the most haunted homes. And there has been some strange apparitions that have been spotted in photographs and during paranormal activities. Now, you're probably wondering, where is St. Francisville? Well, if you're not like me, never been to only been to Louisiana once, um, you probably know it, but I had to ask a friend of mine this because she's from Louisiana, but she lives in Alabama now. But her parents went, and she's been one time before, so I had to get some research from her. And I had to get my own research, of course. But here is a brief history of St. Francisville, so we can get a gist of what we're dealing with. It is a town in the parish of Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. It is the current town of St. Francisville, and it was established May 11, 1807, by John H. Johnson. Imagine having that name, but Johnson and John are very common names. Not as common now, thank goodness, but imagine that. Like, oh, I'm John Johnson. But seriously. But it was originally known as Villa of St. Francis. A number of historic structures from that period still exist, and it is called the town 2 miles long and 2 yards wide because of its developed atop of the narrow bridge overlooking the Mississippi River. And it was a commercial and a cultural center of the surrounding plantation country. But below are the St. Francisville's bluffs, and it's another early settlement called the Bayou Sara, and that has been established by French colonists in the 1790s. It was one it was a one time by the largest Annabella Mississippi River port between New Orleans and Memphis, but superseded by Natchez. And the settlement was gradually destroyed by repeatedly flooding fires, and nothing exists nothing exists on the Bayou Sara today. Now, a few of its surviving structures were hauled up to the hill to Francisville in the 1920s, in the area of the other former controlled territories cast east of the Mississippi, was taken over by Great Britain after its defeated France in the Seven Years' War in 1763. And at the end of the American Revolutionary War, Great Britain ceded what is now called West Florida to Spain in 1783 as part of the Treaty of Paris, and there were years of contention as to exactly where the eastern boundary in 1803 Louisiana Purchase was, depending on which territory was cited. As France and Great Britain and Spain were redrawn the boundaries among themselves, and during the second half of the 18th century, Spain um, continued to claim territory. I lost my place. In the eastern right of the Mississippi River until um, the U.S. settled that issue with the Picayune Treaty. In the region is called the Florida Parishes. So in 1810, St. Francisville s- served as the capital of the Republic of West Florida, and the area planners ousted the Spanish government by Baton Rouge district to set up their own independent republic for 74 days before they annexed the territory of New Orleans as possession of the United States. In 1824, when Feliciana parish was split into the east and west, St. Francisville became the seat of the West Feliciana Parish government. In June 1863, Confederate Army William Walter Leake arranged for the burial here of a Union Navy officer, John E. Hart, who had died abroad in the ship while taking part in the Union blockade of the Mississippi. And the event is reenacted every June during a 3-day commemoration called the Day the War Stopped. Now, after the American Civil War, some Jewish immigrants fleeing a religious persecution in Germany settled here, and this made important contributions to the commerce to lean years of following the war. Becoming successful merchants, they provided credit when the banks failed, and they built impressive Victorian homes with such as Worth Leisenhower Home, and it is now operated as the St. Francis Bed and Breakfast. Now, in the recent years, the community efforts have focused on restoration and preservation of the town's historic homes, and St. Francisville is a tourist destination with a number of restored historic plantations opening for tours, and including Rosedale Plantation, um, State Historic, and many more. In June 2011, John Abraham Bridge was the John Abraham Bridge was constructed in Euchre Crossing at the Mississippi, and this was the successor to the ferry 3 miles up, and is connected to new roads of St. Francisville via Louisiana Highway 10. And Louisiana 10 then connected to US 61 3 miles south of St. Francisville. Now, on the opposite of the bridge, Louisiana 10 crosses to the Point Coupe Parish and connects Louisiana Highway 1 to connect new roads to St. Francisville. Now, let's talk about the hunting of the Myrtles Plantation. And this is located in the South, deep South. So let's remember that. If you're not from the South and you're not used to it, like, we get hot here. I'm not kidding you. Um, I grew up in Alabama my whole life, like born and raised and everything. So I can personally tell you, the heat is nothing to joke about. Trust me on that one. But it's like so, and you gotta remember, like, humidity is not our friend here. I'm telling you. But anyway, but Myrtle's Plantation is located here in the South, and it has spirits of overworked slaves and brutal masters that lies in Myrtle's Plantation in St. Francisville. It has a majestic wrap of veranda blue trim and 20 rooms, and its site is set on high ground, appearing like a portrait as you approach, and it appears to be something out of a storybook. And, however, its history is not for the faint of heart. So, how can this beautiful place be placed have such a dark history? Well, the story begins with a newly married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Clark Woodruff. And Mr. Woodruff was a prestigious judge who owned numerous slaves, and one of the house slaves went by the name Chloe, and who for many years fell victim to his cruelty. Chloe tried to protect herself from the abuse by listening to, to the Woodruff's conversation and modifying her behavior. One day, after being caught eavesdropping, Woodruff would cut her ears off, forcing her to carry the shame and disfigurement of for the rest of her life. Her mutilation was hidden in the request of the Woodruffs by the use of the green turban. No one could see the terrifying mark, but the painful experience would stay with Chloe. So on the ninth birthday of Woodruff's daughter, Chloe placed poisonous oleander leaves into the cake, and Chloe's plan was to poison Mrs. Woodruff and say their children somehow, some, and their children. Some sources claim that it was never her intention to kill three family members, and they suggest that Chloe wanted to get them sick and couldn't nurse them back to health. In the South, local healers were among the respected in the community. If Chloe could heal the family, she would be safe from the harsh reality of working in the fields. Tragically, the dosage was lethal and it ended up killing Mrs. Woodruff and her two children. After the spread of her actions to the plantation, the other slaves were the ones to take revenge. Chloe was hanged by the neck for everyone to witness until the life was drained from her body. She was then weighed down by rocks and thrown into the Mississippi. The plantation was the site of some gruesome activity after Chloe's death, and the new owner, a wealthy family man, and his five children would pass away from TB on the property. And the home was later passed on to the surviving daughters and her husband, the Winters, and Mr. Winter is a proud member of the community as he did his part in teaching Sunday school at his home. So one day while he was teaching, an unknown man rode up on a horse yelling at him. As he came out to address the man, he was shot at point blank range and at his porch, and he retreated to one of the homes and staggered up into the home and staggered up the stairs to eventually die in the arms of his wife. The sound of his strong and forceful stomp still linger in the home today as visitors report hearing heavy footsteps and empty suitcases from empty suitcases. Now, the plantation went on to be used as the film set for movies like The Long Hot Summer. Three visitors were not safe from having their own personal paranormal encounters while filming. Cast and crew members reported witnessing furniture movement and everything. So, in the paranormal activities have become noticeable beginning in the 1970s, and once it was purchased by the Myers family, multiple guests and residents reported seeing the transparent and ghostly apparition of a young girl wearing a green turban uniform throughout the property. In 1992, the owners took a famous photo that believed captures Chloe's spirit. The photo was intended that they believed the photo was intended to be used to secure insurance policy for the home in case of a fire or other national disasters, not to prove paranormal activity. In the presence of the case or fire, the presence of a human figure within the photo was undiscovered until it was developed. And the owner reports that there was no one in the area when the photo was taken. Now, there is a mirror at the Myrtles plantation, and it's one of the most disturbing paranormal reports to occur inside the home. And in the grand hallway, there is an antique mirror that is just outside the room, and the visitors report seeing Woodruff's children appear near the room while they were poisoned. And one researcher noted that each time the mirror is replaced by or resilvered, the same handprint reappears as if they refuse to be ignored. So, despite the ghost stories, there are some debates that if Chloe ever existed or if that was her real name. Today, residence is known as the Myrtles Plantation Bed and Breakfast, but is also recognized as one of the most haunted houses in America, according to National Geographic. They offer haunted tours throughout the day and into the night, as well. So, but yeah. But that is it on the Myrtles Plantation. What do y'all think of it? Do y'all believe in this superstition? Let me know. I'm very interested.